All right, last order of business. Sorry, my stream deck still isn't working, so I have to do everything manually. All right, first person, I'm sorry. First world problems. I can't speak. I'm sleepy. Here we go. Take a look at this. Now you're probably wondering, Clan, what am I looking at right now? What is this? What are you trying to show me? Well, my friend, what I'm showing you is defense, and we care so much about defense. So B-Ball Index, once again, always posting bangers as they do. They posted this one, and it's a beautiful sight to see. That's a lot of players, but I'm going to show you something, okay? I'm going to show you something. So basically what it is the further you go up on this list is the better defending ball screens, okay? And the further you go right is better defending in isolation, right? So ideally, if you're top right, you're a really great defender. If you're anywhere right, you are a really phenomenal defender. So let's just take a look at some stuff here. And just some guys that stand out, right? A few guys that stand out. So first and foremost, you can see Trae Young is right here, if you were wondering. So all you people saying that he's a bad defender, you're kind of right. He's basically kind of he's pretty mid at that point. And they even have a legend here for a defensive role, so you can see overall, what are they, right? So if you're light green, you're a point of attack defender. If you're yellow, you're a wing stopper. What color is that? I'm not good with colors. Whatever color this is, you're a mobile big, blah, 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 blah. So we're looking for Spurs players. Let's see. So I thought I saw Trey Jones. Oh, yeah, here's Trey Jones. Trey Jones is no longer with the Spurs, but if you were wondering how well he was doing, he's a pretty good ball screen navigator. But what we really care about is a few players here, the ones we love, right? You can see here, Steph Castle, Jeremy Sochan, some of the best right here, ahead of almost everybody, right? The only players that seem like to be ahead of them is you got Dort, Andrew Nembhard, you got Dyson Daniels, which he's not as good of a ball screen navigator as Jeremy Sochan and Castle are, but you can see he's far to the right when it comes to perimeter isolation defense. Bilal, everyone wants him. Lots of Spurs fans want him, but they're classifying Jeremy Sochan as a wing stopper, and they're classifying Stephon Castle as a point of attack defender. Not something that should shock any of us, but believe it or not, guys, there are actually people that don't think that Jeremy Sochan is that great of a defender. So this is just more evidence to the contrary that he is a very great defender. Not only is he a great defender, he's one of the best defenders in the NBA, period, by far. So I would really encourage you guys, when you're watching Sochan games, I know that it might be the right message, wrong messenger here, because you guys know I have a bias towards Sochan just because I love his play style. I always love guys with high basketball IQ, great defense. I always gravitate towards those guys. Manu Ginobili, my favorite player of all time, but some niche picks that I always love for the Spurs. I love Kyle Anderson. I love Derek White since day one. I wanted him to start as point guard since day one. You can go watch old videos. You can tell that I wanted him to start from day one. So I have a type of player that I like, but at the end of the day, don't just take my word for it. You can see it in the advanced analytics when you actually compare him against other players in the NBA. He is top tier. So I really encourage you not to just watch games and afterwards just stat sheet watch, or just stat sheet watch in general. Just don't do that with him. You can't do that with players like Jeremy Sochan. Now with Devin Vassell, I feel like at the end of the day, or the end of the game, and you go and you look at how well he did scoring wise, it's not very nuanced, right? It's just not, because his primary goal and his primary role for the San Antonio Spurs is to score. Like, he's an okay defender. He's not a bad defender by any means. He's going to do a few things in the course of the game to impact things, but the type of impact that he has is going to show up in the stat sheet. Like, it just is, because that's his type. That's the type of role that he has, right? You know, and it's the same way with quite a few players. It's not 100% there with Wemby, because obviously Wemby can cause guys to not even want to score when he's on the court. So you can't just stat sheet watch his blocks or whatever to see how good he did defensively. But, you know, there's certain guys that you just can't do that with. And Sochan is one of those guys, right? He impacts the game in a lot of different ways. And this is one of those ways. This is not somebody you want to just go ahead and trade right off the bat and say, hey, he doesn't matter. I guarantee you that in the Spurs front office, he is one of those untouchables. He's one of those guys that it will take a lot for them to get off of him. If the Spurs are this resilient or resistant, to get rid of Keldon Johnson in a trade and saying, no, we're actually going to keep him. You're still going to give us Fox or whatever. If they're willing to do that, I have no doubt in my mind that Sochan is at the top of their list to keep. No doubt in my mind. But anyways, that's all I have to say. So he impacts the game on a multitude of different fronts, and it's not just scoring. Pick and roll defended by Castle and Sochan. They are so good. They are so good defensively, dude. They are so freaking good defensively. Kings didn't want Keldon. I know for a fact that's not true. Yeah. I'll just leave it there. That's actually not true. I'll tell you this. That Luka trade helped a lot. That crazy Luka trade helped a lot. Let's see. Why don't Mitch play them? You mean Steph and Sochan? He's been playing Steph pretty nicely. I don't understand the Sochan thing. I genuinely don't get it. People have brought up that it's just a tank, like a low key tank or whatever, a soft tank. I don't quite understand it. Yeah, I don't quite understand it. But then again, Mitch Johnson, he's been weird. I don't know. His lineups in general have been really weird. Colton, yes. Yeah. Sochan made little to no sense. Sochan needs to be in the starting five. Yeah, he should be in the starting five. So, yeah, playing Sochan that game 13 minutes, it's inexcusable. I don't care what anybody says. You could say he's trash, he's garbage. Makes no sense. No sense. Anyways, is Sochan untouchable still in your opinion? I think as far as obviously Sochan isn't a superstar player, right? Like, and I'm not expecting him to become a superstar. If he does, that will be icing on the cake. I'm not expecting that. But as far as role players go, or his role for the team and how important that is for a team to have success, I think anybody else that has the type of role that Sochan has, he is as, if not more, untouchable than a lot of those other guys. So I would say that Wemby is the only true untouchable, but Sochan is a tier under that for sure. Like, I don't think the Spurs are going to go off of Sochan at all. I think they understand what they have. I think they understand how important he is for the future. I don't think they're going to go off of Sochan. It wouldn't make a lot of sense anyways, but yeah, I think he's as untouchable as it gets for a player of his role. I guess if that makes sense. I don't know if that made sense. Wemby is the only one that's untouchable. Like, okay, but I do think that Sochan, I feel like it goes like this. I think it's Wemby, and I think it's Sochan, and I think it's Castle, and I think it's Devin Vassell. I think it's in that order how the Spurs feel about these players. And Castle might be closer to Sochan, honestly. Like, they actually might be in the same tier of untouchability. But yeah, like I said, if the Spurs are this resistant to give up anybody, I mean, there's no reason to think that Sochan would get moved. And also keep in mind that even if you traded Sochan, I don't think that you get the value of what you'll be giving up. You'll more than likely just get a diluted version of what you already have. It's just no point in doing that. Just no point. Castle is untouchable. I think Castle's a tier under Wemby, sure. Spurs know what they got. Sochan does all the middle things that you need on the team. He does all the dirty work. Stuff that doesn't come up on a stat sheet. At this point, I will put Castle above Sochan. More upside and potential. That's fine. I'm not mad at that. I actually don't disagree with you, Colton, that Castle has more potential than Sochan. I agree with that. But I still would say that they're on the same tier. I think Sochan is still very, important. If I'm thinking of the Warriors, I mean, I think most of us would agree that Clay had more potential than Draymond. I think most of us would agree on that. But yet and still, I feel like both of which should through their career would be on the same level of untouchability. Like, I think Curry, untouchable, period. Don't care what you offer me. I'm not giving them up. And then those two, I felt like we're still in the same tier, like you wouldn't trade, even though one had more potential of the other. You got to realize how important both of them are. Yeah, they're super young too. Sochan is 21, Castle is 20. They're super young. And don't misunderstand. I love Sochan. No, I understand, Colson. I get it. I think that's a reasonable take to say that Castle, has more potential than Sochan. I don't think that's a crazy take at all. Put crazy shooting around Sochan, and he can be Draymond. He's gonna be nasty. I'll tell you that much. Also, just for funsies, people won't like that I bring this up, because like you can't have it both ways, man. You can't have it both ways. Let me show you something. So now, if anybody tells you that Sochan can't shoot, you can just show him this. He's currently shooting 54.5% from the field. Ridiculous. All right. It's always good if you're shooting over 50%. And from three, he's shooting 34% from three. Show him that. I know people will say, well, he's only taking 1.4 a game. I get it. I understand. I get it. But you can't look at his stats here and say that he's not way more efficient than he was last season. He's getting better. I would even argue much better. It's a 10% jump field goal percentage wise in a about a 3% jump 3-point percentage wise. That's really great. That's really good. That's really great, actually. What's that? Only weakness is 3-point, but he's a rookie. Oh, you talking about Castle? No, yeah. I was talking about Sochan. Castle, Castle's shooting. His outside shooting is one of the worst in the NBA. I don't know if it's still the worst in the NBA. Last time we checked, it was the worst in the NBA. Which is still crazy because, I mean, we see how impactful he is during games, right? Even with a bad shooting percentage. Sochan early in the season was much better on the offensive end. Hasn't been the same. I think it was probably a mixture of a few things, right? Like, he had injuries, and then on top of it, like, our lineups are weird, and he's playing, not playing. I mean, it's really hard to get in a rhythm like this. You really should stop overthinking this, and he should just start, right? Chris Paul should be moved to the bench. I would start Sochan and just roll with that. Either start Sochan or Castle, but I would probably just start Sochan. Allow Castle to come off the bench with Chris Paul. I think it just works better. They work well together. Just go about your business, but I don't know what we're doing. Playing roster politics for Chris Paul right now. Sochan's back is still hurt. Oh, there you go. Well, maybe that's it. Hopefully we don't see the same lineup. Well, guys, we had a whole week, so we'll see what happens on Thursday, but we had a whole week. Let us pray.